Welcome to the Ready program. My name is Pam Riddington, and I look forward to getting to know you and your child and being a part of your child's educational journey. This week, in week number 1, the focus is going to be on writing readiness or pre-writing. In this video, I will share a variety of activities that will help your child strengthen their pre-writing skills. Pre-writing contributes to your child's ability to hold a pencil or a writing tool and help further their ability for drawing, writing, copying, and even coloring. Pre-writing skills are part of your child's full total development. It is part of what we call their fine motor development, and it builds the strength in your child's hands. Because motor development starts big, like walking, running, sitting, jumping, and moves smaller to include writing, coloring, tracing. Some of the activities that we are going to do this week, I encourage you to do gross motor and then work small. The first activity this week is an example of that, so let's see what I mean. The first activity that I'm going to share with you today is called Fine Motor Fun. You will find this tracing card in your materials. You will also find this holder, which I encourage you to use because it protects the card and it's easy to wipe off. This activity is going to work on your child's ability to trace a line and also to encourage proper pencil grasp, which is a developmental skill that we will work on. So this activity, when I talk about the gross motor part of it, I encourage you to start not first with the pen, the dry erase marker, but take this activity outside, if it's a nice day, and use some chalk. Draw these same lines. They start easy and get more difficult on the pavement. Have your child trace that line with their feet first, or maybe trace it with their hand in a big motor movement. You can even trace it with chalk and have your child trace over your chalk with another color. Again, this whole big gross motor moving in smaller is part of a child's total development. So this is an easy way to start the activity before we move in and go small. Once your child is ready, we can go with this card in its little cover, and then we have our dry erase marker. What your child is going to do is we'll take off the lid, and if you want to try it first with the lid on and trace the lines, you can do that first. And we want to encourage your child to use a proper conventional pencil grip, which is just using basically 3 fingers. Now, it's not unusual for children very young to want to use a fist on their writing utensil, but we really want them to move to that proper pencil grip using the 3 fingers, the tripod grip. So to make that easier, a trick you can do is to have your child hang on to a piece of paper, put that in their hand, a Kleenex, a tissue, and hold that tissue tight with those 2 fingers. That leaves just the remaining 3 to hold on to the writing utensil, the dry erase pen. So we're going to also encourage your child to walk down that pen and hang on down towards the bottom of the pen so they have better control over their writing. And then you will take the lines that are provided for you and have your child trace along the dotted line. And once they have them all traced, they can actually take the paper they were hanging on to and erase. Again, that activity is fine motor fun. Gross motor first, then move it into the small. The second activity we have this week is called Tweezers and Insects. The purpose of this activity is to strengthen the fine motor skills and develop even counting. We can develop counting with this activity. We can develop sorting. This is kind of an activity that, while it appears quite simple, it has a lot of objectives that we can work on. So you're going to have your tweezers an insect mat. You are going to find your bag of insects, and then you're going to have your tweezers. Again, with the tweezers, similar to the writing utensil, you want to encourage your child to avoid this motion and work towards this motion. Again, if this is where they are right now developmentally, that's okay. But go ahead and encourage them to keep trying this motion. Now, their hands are going to get tired doing this activity. You're going to pick up, put the insects in a bowl or flat on the table, and then have your child pick up an insect and put it on the mat. As they do so, they may become, this hand may become fatigued and they want to switch, and that's okay. Strengthening both sides, both hands is fine for their development. So once they get all the insects on the mat, then they can take them back off the mat with the tweezers and put them in the bowl. One thing that we talk about in development, in gross motor and fine motor development, is your child's ability to cross midline. So when this mat is laying on the table in front of them and they pick up their tweezers and they reach for the bowl, if you put it across from them on the opposite side, that will encourage them to do what we call crossing the midline. That encourages both sides of the brain hemispheres to connect with one another. It's part of their development, and it's really important for their child to be able to cross midline. So when they go to write, they move across what we call the midline. It keeps that hemisphere talking to one another. Some kids early in development have difficulty doing that, and you'll see them color over here with this hand, and then they pick up their crayon and color over here with this hand. So we want to do activities that encourage crossing midline. The tracing activity crosses midline. This activity, you can cross midline. Put the insects in a bowl on the other side of them, so they have to reach across and then put it on the mat. So a lot of these activities will have our main goal, objective of what we're hoping to get from the activity, but there are so many other things in the activity that your child is working on without even realizing it. And that is one of them. Another thing that this activity can encourage is counting. When you're putting the insects on, how many ladybugs are you putting on? How many butterflies are you putting on? Sorting and matching. Take off just the butterflies. How many bugs do we have left? So there's a lot of skills that you can extend beyond just the fine motor activity of putting the bugs from the bowl onto the mat and then back again. Insects and tweezers, tweezers and insects. Cute little easy activity. This can be done independently. If you're busy cooking and you want to have your child engage with something, set them at the table and they can do this on their own and stay busy. Fun activity. The next activity is called rainbow straws. You're going to need straws and you're going to need scissors. This is a very simple activity that requires very little while learning how to cut by just snipping pieces of straw. Your child will be given a variety of different colored straws, and they're merely going to take their scissors and make a snip and cut the straw. Now, this is a nice medium to cut because it is firm, a little bit firmer than paper, but it doesn't require much to cut it because it just takes a simple snip. So they feel very, very successful. You're going to want to keep the straws that you cut up because we can use these for a different activity. Talking about cutting, this may be the very first time your child ever has used scissors. So part of learning that is how to hold the scissors correctly. What I taught with my pre-K students is that our thumb always goes up and our thumb goes in the small hole and our fingers go in the big hole. And we want to make sure when we cut that we keep our thumb up. Now, you'll see a lot of kids want to turn their hand over, remind them the thumb goes up. You might even have Your child might be at a place where scissors are so unfamiliar, they want to use both hands. Again, encourage that handshaking motion, fingers in the little hole, thumb in the big hole. Now you see where my elbow is. It makes it easy for your child to want to turn it over and cut upside down. Also, you might want to encourage your child, elbow by your side, thumb up, fingers down, thumb in the small hole, fingers in the big hole. That keeps their hand in the correct position to do their cutting. Another concern with scissors is, boy, scissors, that can cut a lot of things and a lot of things you don't want cut. So expectations with scissors is really important for you to establish at home. One tool that I have found with my own children, my boys are grown now, was I always had a place where they knew the things in this particular location were things that they could cut. They had an art activity center, and at that center, there were all kinds of things that they could cut. What was at that table were allowed to be cut. Anything that wasn't on that table, they could not cut. So I had things like toilet paper rolls and paper towel rolls and wrapping paper and cereal boxes and straws and plastic cups, anything that they could practice cutting that were different mediums. Another thing that you can use to cut that's super easy, that doesn't require much, is Play-Doh. Have them roll out some ropes and use their scissors to make snips in the Play-Doh to cut that. So establishing those rules of what is allowed to cut and what you cannot cut at home is very, very important. Another easy solution to that is just keep the scissors put up, and we only use scissors when mommy or grandma or daddy are sitting with you, that you need an adult to use scissors when we're first learning the rules for cutting. So that is rainbow straws. And again, remember, hang on to those little pieces of straws, put them back in a Ziploc bag, because we can use these to string and make necklaces. We can do for sorting and counting. So there are more activities we will be doing with the rainbow straws. The next activity involves this container of colorful sand that everyone got. It may seem a little bit messy, and activities can be messy with pre-K students. So you are going to take your tub of sand and you will put it on the table. Take the lid off. And you can either make some cards on index cards, or you can use the paper that had all the little tracing lines for you, for your child to use with this activity. So what your child will do, and they can use their finger, you could use a straw, you can use a pencil, but you're going to show them the line that you want them to trace, and then they will make that line in the sand. Then they can erase it, and you can show them another line that you want them to make. Encourage that one finger, like it's their writing utensil, and to make the line in the sand. This is a fun activity. They enjoy the different medium to use to make their lines. And again, it teaches them kind of a responsibility that this, is a special sand, and we have to take very good care of it. It's meant to stay in the container. Now, if you'd like, and you want to make the surface a little bit big for them to use, you can dump this out onto a cookie sheet that has a lip around it, so that gives them more surface area to draw. They can move from just doing their lines. Maybe they want to make some shapes, do circles, squares. If they're ready to write their name and know some letters, they could make the letter of their name in the sand. You're not just limited to those fine motor tracing lines that we provided for you. You can use your judgment of where your child is and what they're ready to do. You know your child better than we do. So you know what they're ready for and what that looks like. So again, this is our texture box. Fun activity for the kids to do. An extension of this activity that I used to do in my pre-K class, which they absolutely love, is shaving cream. If you purchase some shaving cream, at the store and you squirt a little bit of that on the kitchen table or on the counter, any surface that you want clean. I tell you, even doing it in the bathtub when they're taking a bath, squirt it on the side of the bathtub, on the tile wall. And that's a great place because then they're working at a different angle instead of down in front of them on a table, but they're working this way, which is another skill to use. But you take the shaving cream, you let them smear that around on the table or on the surface that you're working on, and then they can draw the different fine motor lines in the shaving cream. They can draw shapes, they can draw letters. It's a very fun activity and it cleans whatever surface you're working on. So benefits everybody. So that's a fun activity. Texture box, extension, do the shaving cream. The next activity we have for you is called the Rainbow Tear Paper Craft. Well, the children are going to benefit from this activity and their fine motor and pre-writing skills is they're going to be tearing pieces of paper that we've provided for you, which strengthens their fine motor skills while also working on color recognition. So what I did first is I have drawn a rainbow and I went ahead and did it in the colored markers just so it makes it easier once we start gluing paper. But you can just do it with pencil and that's fine, and just put the colored paper, the different colors torn at the bottom, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So you're going to take the paper, you're going to give the children the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple colors. And they're going to start by tearing the paper. Again, we want to use our 2 fingers, hold it with one hand, tear with the other. And you're going to tear strips, tiny pieces. You want them to be at least 1 inch by 1 inch at the biggest, and maybe even smaller for this activity. So they're going to tear little pieces of paper off. You don't want the big pieces. You want them to say, oh, that's too big, make it smaller. And sometimes the kids want to take that whole hand to tear and it doesn't work as well. So again, we're going to use our little pinchers, just like a little crab. We're going to take our little crab fingers, hold on to it, and tear. You're going to tear each color. You can have a paper plate or just do it on the table, but each color has a pile of its own. And once you have all those colors torn for the rainbow, sorted out into their piles, red in one pile, orange in the other, then comes the fun part of gluing. So everyone has a glue stick. Another maybe new activity for your child. Important to keep hold of the cap, because if we don't have the cap, the glue dries out. A lot of learning taking place in just how to use the materials, let alone do the activity. Again, we turn it up just a little bit when we go to use our glue stick. They can either put the glue on the piece of paper to put it on their rainbow, or they can put the glue directly on the big paper and add the piece of paper onto there. So this is our rainbow tear paper craft. Now you're going to have probably paper left over. Save those papers again. Don't throw these away because there's other activities you can do with the leftover paper. Even if you want to do something besides the rainbow after you've done that once this week, if you have leftover paper, you can draw maybe a pumpkin and fill that entire thing in with orange paper. Make just a tear art pumpkin. You could do a fall leaf. You could even draw shapes for your child and have them fill that in with tear art. The variety of colors. You can even make the beginning letter of their name, you know, make the letter W, and they've used tear paper to fill in that line of their name. So many things you can do with that tear paper craft besides the rainbow. But the rainbow is a good one to start with because it also helps us talk about the different colors. And as they're doing the activity, please parents, we really want to encourage their oral language. So all of these activities, talk to them as they're doing the activity. Wow, I like the way you're using that color. What color are you using now? How many of the yellow have you put on already? Just really encourage language and communication as the child's working, and talk about their progress as they're working. That's a big part of that journey with them and their development. We have our cognitive development, we have language development, we have fine motor development. So all these things are working together as your child builds that foundation of learning. So rainbow tear art, that's a fun one to do. The last activity I have to share with you this week is called Feed the Monster. You will find a tennis ball that has a slit in it in your materials, and you will also find some little pom-poms. We also have pony beads in there, but I'm going to show you this activity with the use of the pom-poms. Now, my monster doesn't look much like a monster. This is your opportunity to go ahead and decorate your monster if you'd like. We do have some wiggly eyes in there. If you want to get creative and make some hair for your monsters, you know, you can decorate this monster any way you want. The purpose of this activity is, again, to strengthen that writing hand, to build those muscles. And this ball is pretty hard to squeeze, even for me. So because it's brand new, so parents, you might want to get this ball out and really work it a little bit so it's not so hard for your child to use. But we're going to feed this monster with pom-poms. So they'll hold it in their dominant hand. And again, if that hand gets tired and they want to switch, they can do that and hold it in the other hand. But the idea is to use those muscles and try and limit it to as much as they can. They might at first, you know, want to squeeze it this way with their whole hand, and that's fine. We're still building those muscles when we hold it that way. But again, eventually, I think they'll be able to squeeze it with fewer and fewer fingers. And the monster is going to eat up the pom-poms. They're going to feed the pom-poms to the monster. So you'll pour the pom-poms out. And again, this is an opportunity for color recognition. This is an opportunity for counting, sorting. You can have them sort the pom-poms first, or just feed the red ones to the monster first. You can direct this activity with specific things. So your child is going to pick up the pom-poms. Again, encourage that the crab pinch to feed the monster his pom-poms. You can, again, like I said, you can do by color. You can count as you put them in. Just count the red ones, just count the green ones, just count all of them and feed that monster. It's a good strength building activity, and they love it. They love feeding them the monster, and they love when you dump them out and the monster throws them all back up. So that's a very fun activity. An extension you could do, if this is easy for your child, if maybe this is something they really can do easy, get those tweezers back out. Now we're using both hands to feed the monster. That's a little bit trickier. So this is something you can do as well. Something a little bit harder, instead of just using our fingers to feed that monster, but using the tweezers. Again, encourage them to use both sides. That's okay. We want to really encourage, and this again is crossing the midline. If you put them over here and cross this way, we're crossing that midline, part of that gross motor to fine motor development. Feed the monster, a really fun activity. Don't forget to decorate that monster up. I know you all can get really creative with that. All of these activities, I'll remind you parents, can be found in this activities book for parents that is provided for you. So when you listen to the video, if you need some further explanation, you can find all of the activities that we talked about today and in the weeks to follow in your book. So it gives you a better description of it and some clarification if you have questions. It's all really pretty self-explanatory, and this book is a good resource tool for you. It has all the activities in the book. You might want to keep this in a safe place. We don't want scissors cutting this up or extra drawings in it. This is your resource tool. They have the activities to use, and this is your resource. So it's very, very helpful. In addition to these skills that we're going to teach you, work with you to teach your child, and a part of this educational journey, one of the other things, areas of development that we are going to work on, both to encourage for you to work on at home and also for us to work on when they do meet with us once a week, and that is our social emotional development. When we talk about the whole child and what that whole child looks like, we talk about the cognitive development, counting, color recognition, recognizing letters, recognizing numbers. Those are all part of cognitive development. We talk about fine motor development, just what we talked about today with the pre-writing. We talk about gross motor development with the whole child. We talk about language development, and we're going to talk more about that, being a good language model for your child and what that looks like. And we also talk about social emotional development. This is a key component that carries with that child from home to school and out into the community. Social emotional development is one of the cornerstones of the foundation of a child's development. And when we talk about foundation, we think about a house, and we build our house on a foundation. If the foundation isn't strong and stable, the rest of the house won't survive. So we want the foundation of your child's development to be strong in all areas. And one of these is social emotional development. What I mean by social emotional development, we're going to be talking about helping. What's that look like to be a helper? And how do we ask for help? We're going to talk about sharing, sharing with our family, sharing with others when they come to school. We're going to talk about how to treat other people and how we want to be treated. We're going to talk about being kind and what that looks like. We're going to talk about our emotions. You know, it's very hard for kids to identify their emotions, and we're going to be talking about what that's like, and how emotions are what we own, and that's okay, but how we share our emotions with other people is important. So we're going to talk about identifying emotions and how to regulate some of those feelings that we have. And we're going to talk about grit and empathy, how to persevere and do our best and work hard, and how to be understanding of other people. So these are all part of the social emotional development of your child. And I know you all have a good start of those at home, but what happens at home is a little bit different than when we transition to school. You know, your child being a helper at home, when they move to the school setting and there's 17 or 22 children, and we all can't be the helper that we are at home, but we all have a job to do, and we all have to pitch in. So all this social emotional will be a big part of our lessons coming up, and we'll be talking about some of those, and we'll be talking about those emotions, social emotional development at school as well. I really feel that's a big part of learning how to be part of a community, our home community, our school community, and even out in the world as they grow and learn. I hope you have a great week doing all of these activities. I look forward to hearing back from you. I look forward to meeting you this week and meeting your child. And I know we're just going to have a great year, and I'm really looking forward to it. Y'all have a good week, and I'll see you next week.